that just talks to the depth of the gymnastics at that club and the coaching team that they have there and that amazing community of gymnastics at Leeds Gymnastics Clubs. The next apparatus we're going to look at is pommel horse, and you know, traditionally we've been the best in the world on this apparatus. You know, we're seeing now a lot of that next generation coming through, and with the start list here, we've got Alexander Yolshin-Cash, who finished 5th in the world in his first ever competition on the world stage last year. But he's going to be pushed by Ruben Ward. We've got Joe Fraser, who did incredibly well in the all-around, becoming the all-around champion, but he's won major championship medals on the pommel horse. Joshua Nathan's been a European medalist. So of all the finals today, this is probably going to be one of the most hotly contested.
It certainly is. It's a stacked field once again. A number of the gymnasts have had to go out, reset themselves, and come back out in front of this very loud crowd and be prepared to perform again.
Yeah, exactly. You know, these gymnasts, many of them will have competed on 6 or 4 apparatus yesterday. They have to rest up overnight, make sure they're ready to go again, because some of them will be competing in 4 or 5 finals. Now, the women are going to come in at this rotation. It's our first opportunity to see them. And we're going to look at the women's vault start list right now.
Yeah, we've spoken with Abby about the competition that we'll be able to witness between Emily Roper and Abigail Martin. These two had the exact same start value in qualifications. Abby just picked that execution to mean that she will be the last gymnast to go on vault, and that's actually going to give her a real advantage today, because she's going to be able to see what her competitors are going to be able to put out there and decide whether or not she's going to upgrade to that double twist. It's something that she'll have spoken about with her coaches. She'll possibly try and warm it up and see how it feels out there on the podium. But going last in a lineup like this is going to give her an advantage today.
It will, Sydney, and it's going to be really interesting. You know, we're coming into this year, and in many ways, Abigail Martin and Ruby Evans are almost the experienced gymnasts on this team, having been at the Olympic Games and that World Championship success. So seeing somebody push Abby in this vault final is going to be really exciting to watch. So I can't wait to watch this one.
Well, two people I know are equally going to be looking forward to it are Katie Foster and James Hall. Katie, this one's going to be tight.
It certainly is. It's going to be a very competitive vault final here for the girls, and a really interesting one to watch, because the 3 top qualifying gymnasts yesterday didn't do their highest difficulty vaults. So it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be a game of tactics. And as you said, there is a bit of an advantage to going up last in this final, because you'll have the opportunity to see what everyone's done before you. And actually the gymnast going up last can then make a choice. Do they go for difficulty? Do they go for broke? Or, depending on what's happened before, they might choose to play it safe and try and secure their place on the podium.
Absolutely, you've got to find that balance. Difficulty, risk versus reward. And on an apparatus like vault, to separate yourself, you really have to go for that difficulty. But again, you've got to think about your safety. You have to have done these numbers in the gym. You have to be completely ready for it.
Another really important element that changed in the women's code recently was the 0.2 bonus that you can receive on top of the average of your 2 vaults if your post-flight somersaults are in different directions. So that's something really critical that we'll be looking out for. And these high-level vaulters will be trying to ensure that they do have 1 vault that rotates backwards and 1 that rotates forwards, because coming across a 0.2 bonus in artistic gymnastics is not a particularly common thing. So if you can take advantage, it can give you a really great boost on your final score.
Absolutely. I was waiting for them to bring in a age bonus for the old men of the gymnastics world competing, but that never came. A 2/10 bonus, that is quite considerable.
They do have an age bonus at the adult British, you know. You know, if you take a few years off and fancy trying your chances again, the older you are in your age group, you do get a bit more bonus.
Yeah, that sounds good, actually. Sounds like a bit of me. Maybe I'll join that.
And yes, the women's vault final is going to be very competitive, but it's going to be a fascinating watch over there on the men's pommel horse. It's a piece that Great Britain has such great history in. We've had a real golden era when we had the likes of Lewis Smith, and of course his Huntingdon teammate Luke Folwell, and of course Max Whitlock has been around for a really long time. But actually, we've got a new generation of pommel horse workers who are really exciting.
Absolutely, and I think you can see there's a Ruben warming up now, and you've got Alex Yolshin-Cash. I think there's a few of the younger lads that actually are starting to believe, you know, why does it have to be someone else all the time? Why can't it be me? Why not me? And once you start to ask yourself those questions as a young athlete, that's when you really start to see the big gains. Why not me?
And actually, some of these guys who are the younger competitors in this final probably grew up watching the likes of Max and Lewis, and maybe that's the inspiration that fueled their, desire to progress on pommel horse, and that's incredible to see.
Definitely, and I know Max and Lewis had a hard job, being the trailblazer. There's no one before you, so that is, you're sort of going in blind. But when you've got somebody in front of you that has done the work and shown you that it's possible, again, you go back to that belief and think, well, actually, maybe I can do that. Maybe there's room for me.
So let's see if there is room on the podium for Adam Tobin, representing Notts Gymnastics Academy. He's our first pommel horse finalist.
Starting with a sheer to handstand, that would be a common one that you'll see in this final. A little bit of a stutter on the way out. Moving well. It's always hard to be the first competitor. Get those nerves out of the way. He's moving well. Into the Russian on one handle. Intricate work on that handle. Travel across the Tong Fei and just off there. He was going for a backwards travel, but his shoulders looked as though they were in the wrong place. He was going the Shivado, which is where you travel the length of the pommel facing backwards. Just in the wrong spot. And you get 30 seconds when you fall to get back on the horse and finish your routine. And here he is catching his breath, and he's back on. And that's the Roth, slightly different from the one before. And up for the dismount, into the full turn, nice and speedy. There'll be no deduction for that. And then you can tell just by his body language, a little bit disappointed with that.
That was a real shame to have the break in the middle of the routine. He had quite a long chat with his coach there, Josh Champion, I noticed. What kind of things might they have been discussing when he'd come off the pommel?
Oh, what do I do now? You can either repeat the skill to get your full start value, and if you decide not to, then you will be down on your difficulty. But again, it's kind of, do I want to sacrifice a bit of my energy or not?
Definitely a tough decision as we swiftly move over to the first gymnast in our women's vault final. This is Grace Davies representing Robin Hood Gymnastics Club. She's a powerful performer here, and beautifully with her first effort there, a sky-high full twisting Yurchenko. That's a vault we're going to see quite a lot of in this final. So you really do need to work hard on your execution to make sure that you're separating yourself from the rest of the field. You can see it's the Yurchenko vault, the round off onto the springboard, flips back onto the vaulting table, and then propels herself into the air from her hands. This is a very familiar vault for Grace. She has performed a Yurchenko 1.5 before, so going back to the full is a very familiar and comfortable routine for her. A few weeks ago at the English Championship, she didn't compete across all 4 apparatus and was nursing a bit of a lower leg niggle, shall we say. So really great to see her back on the leg events here in Liverpool and even qualifying to this vault final.
And do you think that's why we saw the full twist instead of the 1.5? Just being careful, maybe?
I expect so. It looks like she's got a bit of strapping on that knee, and the 1.5 twist means you have a forward landing, and sometimes that can be a little bit trickier on the ankles and knees if you haven't quite got the rotation. So certainly better to be safe than sorry. Grace has been a regular member of the GB national squad for a number of years, and with the opportunities of Commonwealth Games and European Championships this year. Part of the name of the game this year really is to keep healthy and to stay in contention for those exciting opportunities. Now, this second vault is the one that Grace has performed less. She's going for a full twisting Sukahara, or a Kaz-style vault, as the boys would do. Oh, and her hand just slipped a little bit there on the table. It does attract a higher difficulty score than her first vault, and really great to see her able to walk away from that okay. But so tricky when your hand slips on top of the table. You just can't get that block that you need. And taking another look here, I think it was that left hand. Oh no, the right hand just slid as she was turning, and unfortunately not able to get the vault to her feet. So the judges are going to have a decision to make here. If any part of your body hits the floor before your feet, the judges could in fact say it was a non-vault and call it a 0. So a difficult decision there for the judges.
And the scoring for Adam Tobin, 11.65. A hefty penalty for that fall, a mark off. and probably missing some of his start value as well for not repeating the skill he fell on. Stanley Cropper up next on the pommel horse. A welcome addition to the final. Nice shear from the handles to the leather. It's opting to start with his trebles. Most gymnasts start on the handles. With the Magia, the Shavado there. And now stepping up onto the handles, into the Russian, the E-Russian, slight split of the legs there will be a deduction for that. And into the Son, that difficult turn, 2 of them on one arm. Into the Stockleys, which means they'll be upgraded, and into the dismount. You'll notice that he didn't quite manage a turn on that dismount, which means that he doesn't get the full requirement. Every gymnast must show a dismount minimum D value, and that's only a C. So he'll be down a few tenths. 2 tenths for the requirement, and then 1 tenth for it being a C instead of a D. So that can be quite costly depending on how the rest of the pommel final plays out.
Sometimes, though, much like in the women's beam, staying on the apparatus is the name of the game. So he'll be likely to take the lead so far at the early stages of this final. And there we see the score for Grace Davies is a 13.1. So next up we have Tegan Trafford. She's here representing Summit Gymnastics. And for her first effort, I believe she's going to be showing us another one of those full twist Yuchenkos. It's going to be a common vault in this final. And did very well there, a little bit offline on the landing. I think that might be slightly lower of a score than Grace's full twist was. When we get to watch the replay, just take a look at her arms when she contacts the vaulting table. So the judges are looking very carefully for all of these body positions throughout the vault. And just as you watch here, as she leaves the springboard, reaches back onto the table, there was a bit of a shoulder angle and a bit of an arm bend too, so the judges will have an opportunity to take a few tenths there. And when you don't get that big, strong block with strong arms and open shoulders, it means the vault doesn't tend to rise as much in the air as well. The judges are looking for high, dynamic, flighty vaults. And actually, when you have a slightly lower vault like that, can make quite a big difference to your score. Ready now for her second vault. And this one is a vault I really enjoy watching, actually. It's quite an intricate one. Again, using the round off onto the springboard, then the half turn onto the table, and really great power in that tuck front off the top. A little bit off direction, so not quite the landing that she wanted. But an interesting vault, and certainly something she can build on in the future if she can change the shape of that somersault or maybe add some twists.
So she came right the way off the mat there, didn't she? What's the deduction for something like that?
Well, so you can see the line judge at the end there. Karen Whelan raised her flag. So it'll be a 0.3 for having taken both of her feet out into the red area of the mat. But then on top of that, the judges can take your typical landing deductions. They'll be deducting for each step she took as well. The score in for Stanley Cropper is a 13.4 on pommel horse, so not too shabby at all.
Yeah, he should be really quite happy with that. Now on to Elliot Vernon, opting for the same sheer movement as Stanley, but he's starting with the handles this time, the E Stockley, E value, and into the Son element, same one arm element as Stanley, but he was just off there. His arm looked to have buckled a little bit. It's just taking him off. And again, he has the option to repeat it or to move on. If you repeat it, of course, you risk making the same mistake. And Elliot has decided to move on. Into the Russian. Into the Tong Fei. And he's moving well, perhaps getting a little bit tired here, starting to slow down, just needs to keep it up. Big press for the dismount. Manages to get up, turn it for a full turn for the E value. Again, another fall in this final. Pommel horse is really one of those pieces where it's anyone's game. Just look, there's elements of that routine where he's moving really quite well, but then just loses it there, and sometimes that's all it takes. A little bit of a misstep, and that's enough to bring you off.
Next up in the women's vault final is Andrea Nodoro from South Essex Gymnastics. The score in for Tegan Trafford is a 13.05, so that landing was a little bit costly on that second vault. Now, Andrea is a young senior in this field. She's a fantastic junior competitor, and I really enjoyed watching her on the floor, but making her senior vault final today, and an outstanding effort on that first vault. I said we'd see a few full twisting Yuchenkos, and I think that's probably my favourite one so far. Incredibly clean on the landing.
You can certainly see the difference, couldn't you, with the arm position on the vault here between her and Tegan.
Yeah, absolutely. Got those shoulders right open, and you can see when you strike the vault right, the top of that vaulting surface is actually a little bit sprung. So if you hit it with a nice tight body position, it will help to propel you up into the air. And yeah, she did a fantastic job of that. Now, her second vault is the same difficulty value as Tegan's, but it's a different entry. She's going for a tucked Kaz, which is a vault entry we see the guys do a lot, but not quite so common amongst the girls. But Andrea did a really good job of this one yesterday. And tidily through. Did very well to keep that vault in line. When you're twisting off the table, if you go a little bit early, you can be taken off direction, but she did a great job of that there. This is her only final here today in Liverpool, so I'm sure she'll be pleased to have delivered a strong performance. You can see she tucked a little bit early on the table there, and the judges will definitely have opportunity to deduct. Really, you'd like to see the gymnast rise a little bit more before they get into that shape. The score in, though, for Elliot Vernon on the pommel, it's 11.35. So 13-4, still the score to beat.
And it is Ruben Ward now. He is quite the pommel worker, so hold on to your hats for this one. Really long, slender physique, which is perfect for pommel. And right the way across the pommel in that shear, D value. And he's going big. He's gone for the double Russian, which is an F value. Nicely into the Stockley's, and look at that extension of the hips. That's exactly what the judges are looking for. Not much to give away to the judges. The Maggie Shavado travelling across the pommel, and again with the turn, the Roth. He's really getting the difficulty in here, and he moves so fast. Into the dismount. What a great routine. What a great routine. He'll be so happy with that.
You can see his reaction, clapping in the air there. Delighted with that performance, and some really great work from this young gymnast.
Absolutely. And you know, I see him in training on Instagram. He's always training hard, trying to train with distractions. You know, his coach is always putting him off, obviously in a safe manner, but you know, really trying to put him to the test and prepare him for not just this competition, but later on in the year.
So the score in for Andrea Nodoro is a 13.4, so tidy vaulting wins the day. As we're ready to welcome our next competitor. This is Amy Colkwell. I had the pleasure of rotating with her at the Welsh Championships just a few weeks ago, and she really is a powerhouse vaulter, using a different approach to what we've seen so far, and the handspring pike front somersault. Now, that might give the illusion that it's a little bit easier than some of the vaults we've seen, but that handspring entry is not the easiest way to flip yourself over the table. It does require a lot of power, a lot of strength in those shoulders to generate the block in order to rise up and complete the rotation. You can see she slams her hands into the front of the vaulting horse. Has a bit of a pace forward on the landing. Should be able to see from this angle whether she remained within the lines, which she does, and very, very clever actually with that left foot. She looked like she might have been going out of line and managed to avoid that deduction. But it'll be about a 0.3 step, I'd say, for that landing. So she's going to be using a forward style of entry once again, this time the Sukahara. And she's going to be fighting hard to maintain a straight body position throughout the air, which actually she does a really good job of. The judges are incredibly strict on vaults about whether gymnasts have maintained a straight enough body position throughout. And if you do show a little bit too much pike of the hips or don't maintain a straight body position for long enough, they can call it a pike, which is a significant difference in the difficulty value. But I think Amy did a great job there, and a fantastic showing here in this senior vault final.
Ruben scores in. That is a massive score, 14.55. enormous. And you'll see there on the execution, he only lost 1.15, which is a really tidy routine. I think usually it's between 1.4, 1.6, maybe a little bit higher that people lose from a routine, but really keeping it tidy.
And that is an absolutely massive score. For context, the top qualifier yesterday was Joe Fraser. He's going to be coming up in just a little while, but his score yesterday was a 14.1. So 14.55, that's truly world class. Absolutely,
that's almost half a mark over Joe's qualifying score. I mean, he's got today to improve that, but like you say, that really is world class. That wouldn't look out of place. World Championships, Olympic Games, he's just got to keep it up. And with the Commonwealth Games on the horizon, you never know.
And you can see Amy there patiently waiting for her score with her coach Claire, whilst the second half of this final is warming up. So the gymnasts get split in half for this, don't they? It didn't used to be the case. You used to warm up all 8 gymnasts in one go, and then it could be quite a long wait for the last competitor. Oh, there we go, the score in for Amy. Nice wave to the camera. It's a 12.55, pops her into 4th place so far in this final. So I mentioned it used to be the case that all 8 gymnasts would warm up, and if you were the last guy up in that final, it was really quite a long wait, wasn't it?
Yeah, sometimes you'd go 20, 30 minutes without touching the apparatus, and I think there was some safety concerns, really, because the last touch you'd have would be in the back gym. So it's safer to let the athletes do their warm-up, half the gymnasts compete, and then the other half warm up and compete. Much safer like that, and much fairer for the gymnasts.
Yes, I completely agree, especially considering they have no control over the order in which they get to compete in these finals. So it did feel a little bit like you're at a disadvantage if you had a long wait between your warm-up and your competition. So yeah, I really like this format change.
It's great, and usually if you do qualify in first position, they usually put you up last. So it's kind of at a disadvantage, but I suppose it's the idea of saving the best till last.
Yes, and interesting that that is the format here at these British Championships. Often at a World or European competition, it's a random draw for that final, isn't it?
Yeah, it usually is, and you're at the organiser's mercy. So you've got to be ready, and again, you have to train that. You can train that almost down to the moment in training, but it's again difficult to replicate in the actual arena.
And we mentioned earlier, you know, if you're the last competitor up and you've got a couple of options for your routine, it does give you the opportunity to watch everyone that goes ahead of you and kind of decide what you're going to put in there. So which do you prefer? Do you like the random draw, or do you like the idea of the top qualifier going last?
I think personally, if I was competing, it would just be the random draw, so I could just get my routine done. I wouldn't like it if I went last and, you know, you've got all that pressure of, oh, everybody else may have made a mistake or wobbled and I could take this, but random draw for me.
Okay, so we're going to be turning our attention back to our men's pommel horse final, and fresh off his victory on the floor, we're going to get an opportunity to see Jake Jarman. And he's pretty handy on this piece too.
Absolutely, so well-rounded. He's really, just watch out for his extension in this. He's got a really nice extension. So the judges will be looking for that. His arm goes up, ready for the beginning of his routine. Let's go, Jake. Nice and calm. Little glance over his shoulder, looking at the timer, making sure he's got time. Starts with the sheer to handstand. Very nice. Again, look at that extension. He's worked hard on this over the years. Nice E-Stockley there. Calm, measured, moving really well. The Russians in between the handles. Moving into a Russian on the handle. Very, very intricate work. To the Wu, an E value, a really difficult travel. Trips a lot of people up. Now into the Magyar, and often accompanied by the Shvado. Circling well, just got to finish the dismount, and a nice E-dismount it is. A great routine. I didn't really see any flickers. No legs apart, no bent legs. He'll be very happy with that. The smile says it all.
Another fantastic performance, and we could do with some clean routines here in this pommel final. The competition is heating up. Looks a bit tired after that one. Is it hard work on the pommel horse?
Emotionally, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it doesn't look all that physical, but it is. You spend quite a while just on your hands. And then after it, really, you know, once the adrenaline settles a little bit, it really does take it out of you.
Okay, so headed back over to the women's vault final. We've got Emily Burke here competing for Dynamo. And now this is going to be an interesting test. She's got the same vaults as a couple of the competitors we've already seen. So it's going to be execution that separates these gymnasts who are using the same difficulty values. Once again, seeing that full twist in Yurchenko. Pretty good on the landing, nice and secure. Possibly a little bit the judges could take on body line in the air. You can just see she has to pike down a little bit. So in the last sort of half of that somersault, she chose to close the hip angle a little bit to make sure of that landing, speeding up the rotation. But it's certainly an area where the judges can take a small deduction.
Judges don't tend to miss a thing, do they?
Certainly not, no. And here they've got the best seats in the house. They're at the level of the vault. So they've got a perfect view. And we've got a really good complement of judges here today. We've got brevets, we've got national judges, so I'm sure they won't be missing a thing. Now, Emily's second vault is going to be the same as we saw from Tegan Trafford. The half on into the tucked somersault off. Oh, and very nicely done. You can see the difference there in the landing. The execution score is going to be way up there. Loving the fist bumps in the air. Emily looks delighted with that routine. Emily recently attended the World Student Games where she had a fantastic competition. So she's no stranger to competing in big arenas like this one, and certainly looks like she made the most of this opportunity today.
Jake scores in, 14-1 into second place. That's no surprise. I do think Ruben's routine was slightly higher difficulty. A few more turns. And now another fierce competitor, Alex Yolshin-Cash. World finalist on this apparatus last year, came 5th in the final. And again, starts with a shear we've seen before, and into the one-handle work straight away. A slight brush of the pommel there, but he goes for the triple, which is a G value, maximum difficulty on this apparatus. It looks a little bit nervy, but still keeping it under control, swinging nicely through that travel. And another one, looks a bit steadier. Now again, the Maggia Shavado that we've seen before. Moving well, found his rhythm, and up into the dismount, goes for the E value, and he's got it. A little bit wobbly, not sure if it's enough to take the top spot, but I'm no judge, I'm afraid. We'll have to wait and see.
And he's another one of those gymnasts who really doesn't give much away, does he? There's not a lot of facial expression. Hard to know whether he's pleased with that or not. I suppose a little bit disappointed. What kind of deduction can the judges take for a brush against the leather?
If they're not sure, they'll usually take 1 if you've actually made contact. But if you do hit the pommel horse, a big brush, it will be 3 attempts. And if you do absolutely wallop it, then it will be half a mark deduction.
Okay, and the score is in for Emily Burke. The average of her 2 vaults is a 12.95, which puts her in second place so far. And next up, we've got Ruby Stacey from Plymouth Swallows. Now, what vault is she going for today? It's the full twist in Yurchenko. So I was watching her warm-ups really carefully yesterday. I'm pretty sure she warmed up a 1.5 and then opted to do the full in competition. And in the warm-ups again today, just looks a little bit unsteady on the full twist, struggling to generate rotation. So pleased that she's opted for a clean, safe vault. One that she's very familiar with. Ruby's had a few World Cup medals on this piece of apparatus. So no stranger to competing in finals like this one, but just slightly watered down in her difficulty today. It does mean once again, though, we get the opportunity to kind of test all of these full twists against one another. And I do think that one will rank fairly highly. Ruby is quite a tall gymnast. We mentioned on the broadcast yesterday that she's eligible to have the bars raised. So has to work very cleverly and very efficiently to make sure she can use that body type to its best effect. And again, we see Yurchenko with the half on into the tuck front somersault off. A large jump forwards on the landing. Certainly a 0.3 will be taken by the judges, but great direction. She didn't step out into those red areas of the mat. And this final is certainly proving to be very competitive, with so many gymnasts using similar difficulty values.
Alex scores in. I think there was quite a few form breaks in there that's led to that score. I think he'll be quite disappointed, maybe even surprised at that. But next up, Josh Nathan. Veteran on this piece of apparatus. A world final for Josh back in 2021. World Championships. He's just waiting for the judges to be ready. There might be somebody may have asked a question, or there may be a question from the judges to the superior jury, just clearing things up. So Josh will have to wait a little longer, which is always tough as a gymnast. You're ready to go, you want to go, you've got to wait for the judges.
Yeah, it's not fun waiting up on that podium when the judges aren't quite ready to go. And interesting to think what the jury might be questioning. Interestingly, Josh Champion, Alex's coach, is also a brevet judge, so no doubt he'll have been watching that routine very carefully with a very technical eye for the detail to understand what might have been given credit, what might not have been, and what's affected that score.
Definitely, and the judges don't know what routine the gymnast is going to do, so they have to work it out on the spot. So sometimes there are skills missed, mistakes made, but the coach going into the competition, if the gymnast does their full routine, then they'll know exactly what start value they've got coming.
Yeah, I always think for an untrained viewer such as myself, when it comes to pommel horse, I think the hardest thing is trying to understand when one move goes into the next. Actually, is kind of a viewer that doesn't fully understand. It's quite a difficult piece of apparatus to watch and comprehend.
Absolutely, and the skills involved are limited, so you'll see a lot of athletes repeating the same skills as each other. I think we've got the green light for Josh. Arm's gone up from the judge, so he's ready. So Josh starting on the handles by the looks of it. And he goes up to handstand. D value is the highest value for that skill that you can get. And into the son to one handle. So anything that comes after will be upgraded. So that is an F value skill. Now into the Russians in the middle. We've seen a few of them do this. And he's through it nicely. Little leg split there into the Stockley. And again, this energy takes up a lot of routine. Up to handstand and back down. It's a long way down for that skill, but he's handled it well. And then across in the flares. Flares are always very exciting. He's just got to keep going. Moving well, and now for the dismount. And he's across into the E. That's a great routine. Lovely. And you'll notice that he wasn't quite as extended as the other athletes, so the judges may take a little bit for that compared to somebody like Ruben, but packed in the difficulty, up to handstand and down again. That's an F value. That is big money for him, so he'll be very, very pleased with that wonderful pommel routine.
I love those close-up shots. You can see just how intricate the movements are. To be able to nail those hand positions, whether on the leather or on the handles, it's a very detailed apparatus.
Definitely. And I really do love the flare work, so well done, Josh.
Yeah, it's certainly a crowd favourite as well. So next up in the women's vault final, we've got Emily Roper. Her twin sister Abby alluded earlier in the studio to the fact that she's performing a new vault here this weekend. And rocking an exceptionally sparkly Believe leotard here in the vault final. Oh, okay, so going for the Lopez vault there. Now, I mentioned in Emily Burke's vault that the judges are really looking for those body positions in the post-flight. And to get the full start value for that Lopez vault, which is what she was going for, she needs to maintain a straight body position. So let's take a look as she leaves the table. I would say that she's going to be lucky to get that credited as a straight. The judges really do want to see that open hip angle the whole way through. And she had to pike down quite hard to get that somersault round.
Yeah, it looked a little bit rushed off the top to me, didn't it? Not much of a block. And that probably was the reason for the pike down.
Yeah, absolutely. And gymnasts are so clever. Like, in the air, they can make adjustments. And ultimately, to get the best score, you're always going to do the best if you stay on your feet. And of course, you know, we want to see these gymnasts safe and healthy at the end of this competition too. So when they have the awareness and the ability to make an adjustment to make sure they're safely landing, it's absolutely the right thing to do. But also really exciting to see some ambitious vaults coming through from these women's seniors. The international field at vault is growing, And to have GB gymnasts that are pushing to be able to contend with the difficulty score is really exciting to see. So the judges indeed taking a little bit of time over this one. They're going to want to make sure they credit her with the right start value. And there are 2 judges on that panel who will be in charge of making that decision. Our D judges will be reviewing the difficulty of the routine. And the rest of the judges are solely focusing on execution. So they don't have to decide whether it was a straight or a pike. They just have to judge what they see and take deductions where they see fit. Ready now for Em's second vault. And the Yurchenko hand mat is still in. And it's another one of those Yurchenko full twist. Now that really was beautifully executed. There was a hop back on the landing, but the height, the distance, the body position in the air, that was great vaulting. You can see as she attacks the table, gets a really great block, lifts high, straight down the middle of that mat, and that's going to be a really great second vault score.
Josh, what a score. He'll be happy with that. It's always nice to see him be rewarded. He's been in this game a long time.
Oh, there you go.
Hard-earned.
You can see the smile and shock and pleasure on his face at seeing that score come in.
And now, top qualifier Joe Fraser. Had a cracking day yesterday, 84.5 all around. We're looking to better his score today. Again, starting with the sheer to handstand and another one. Not many people do 2 of them for the risk. The triple Russian, we've seen this before. Very nicely done. Into the Stockleys. A little bit of a form break there. Losing that stretch in the hips, but still moving well. Keeping his legs together into the travels, the woo travel there, E value. And the Tong Fei, a little bit tired here, but he's still going. He's got the strength. And up into the dismount. Another good routine. Another good routine from Joe. A little smile there. Well done, Joe. A little shake of his fist.
He's such a smooth performer on the pommel horse. I think it's really interesting to see the different styles. Some people, to me, look like they're spinning around really, really quickly. But Joe always makes me feel calm when he's on the pommel horse. It's a really smooth, slow swing and just such a steady performance.
Absolutely. I mean, he's got really broad shoulders. He's very muscular. That's hard to do on a thin pommel horse to swing that well. So he's got to manage that as well.
So the score in for Emily Roper. The score you're seeing on screen is the score for that second vault, but I can tell you her combined total is a 13.025, which puts her into first place so far. There's only 1 gymnast left to go who can steal this title, and she's got some very ambitious vaults coming up. I believe it's going to be the Lopez first, the same first vault we saw Emily attempt just moments ago. Oh, I stand corrected. So she switched the order of her vaults. It was the double twisting Yurchenko, which is an upgrade from what she did yesterday, squeezing an extra twist off the top of the table. Of course, adding more twists means more difficulty on her start value. Tiny bit of crossed feet in the air, but not a huge amount of form deduction there. It's going to be the landing, if anything, that the judges are taking a little bit for. You can see really that she hit the ground and she was still twisting, which carried her just outside of those tram lines. But did well to bring it under control.
Yeah, there is a slight deduction, isn't there, if your lack of preparation for landing. If you're still twisting when you hit the floor, there will be a slight deduction.
Yeah, and often when that is the case, the gymnast hasn't quite completed the twist. So if you're twisting into the landing and just about squeaking the last, few inches of that twist round, then it can also result in your vault being downgraded. In this instance, though, I'm fairly sure Abby was round, the double was there, but it just kind of hit the ground and was still going. Who knows? Maybe she needs to turn it into a 2.5. We'd certainly welcome an Amanar in the GB vault lineup. Okay, so hopefully this should be the Lopez vault that I was expecting to come first. And this is a really exciting development for Abby. You see there the half onto the table. Oh, and she did really well there, actually. The shoulder angle was a little bit closed. She had great distance in the post flight, but it didn't really rise from the table.
bit flat, wasn't it? But still, two great vaults.
Incredible. And I'm told that Abby's put a lot of effort and focus into that Lopez because she'd really like to turn it into a Cheng, which has an additional full twist in that post-flight somersault, which attracts huge difficulty from the international judges. So really great to see her putting two big vaults out here. And I think she'll definitely be contending for that title. 13.025 was the average from Emily Roper. But Abby will certainly be chasing her to the top of that podium. You can see her coach Rachel there from South Devon Gymnastics. She's had a busy weekend with gymnasts competing at various different age groups over the course of these championships.
And a 13.7 for Joe. Got his bag on already. I think he's in the ring final, so he's got to be ready. But he'll be happy with that. There was a few form breaks, but not a bad job at all.
Yeah, just outside of the medals for Joe, but that means we can confirm that whopping 14.55 from Ruben Ward is going to be enough to take the pommel horse title here today.
Our new champion, how exciting. He's been working really hard for that. Really, really deserved. Josh Nathan in second, 14.3, and Jake Jarman with a 14.1. That just shows the standard. The top three over 14, unbelievable.
Yeah, great work there on the pommel horse, and actually with the likes of Alex Yolshin-Cash, who really can push up in those scores, it feels like pommel horse is truly becoming one of the great strengths of this GB squad once again.
Definitely, and for a team environment, pommel is all to play for. That's where it can really unravel in a team competition. So having that lockdown is really going to help that. Something like the high bar, that would be great.
Abby patiently waiting for that score, and it is in. We can confirm that Abby Martin is the senior vault champion with a total of 13.55 after those two fantastic vaults. So big congratulations to Abby. Yeah, the extra difficulty certainly pushed her over the edge there, with about half a mark separating her and Emily Roper, who takes the silver medal. And a fantastic result for Andrea Nadoro. Beautiful clean vaulting, lower on the difficulty, but a really exciting bronze medal for her in the Senior British Championships. And you can see these girls are delighted for one another. That was a really high-quality vault final, and so exciting to see these GB gymnasts pushing the difficulty, trying new things. And it's certainly going to be exciting to see how they can develop these vaults ready for upcoming internationals. Also lovely to see that Abby there, twin sister to Emily, is straight down on the competition floor to offer her congratulations.
And the pommel results confirming Ruben Ward in the top spot, 14.55, Josh Nathan second with 14.3, and Jake Jarman 14.1. But really high quality final. Not many mistakes, a few falls, but that's to be expected in a pommel final. But really, really incredible.
I have found perhaps the youngest fan here today. This is baby Sonny. Say hi, Sonny. No, not fan. Well, it's Sonny alone. But I have got some of his fan members here to play a wonderful game, kind of linked to baby Sonny over here. This is the baby gymnast game. So very quickly, let's find out who we've got here. What's your name? Ali, yeah, over here. And?
There'll be a crossover with some of the athletes into other finals. Don't be surprised if you see these names again.
Well, and I think that's the start list for the vault final. So just give us a couple of moments, and I'm sure we'll get the final scores on the doors.
To gymnastics, you need to tell us who was that. So 2018, that was 8 years ago.
There we go. That's what we wanted to see. So confirmation there that Abby Martin from the South Devon School of Gymnastics is our new British champion with a great score, 13.55, pushing that difficulty to the max and certainly being rewarded. Taking the silver medal, it's Emily Roper from Piper's Vale, and in third place, taking that great bronze medal, Andrea Nadoro, the young senior from South Essex. So we're going to hand back over to Sam and Sydney. The action just keeps coming, guys.
That's right, Katie. Two more brilliant finals there. And on the pommel horse, you were both quite right. The future looks bright for the pommel horse for Great Britain, with Reuben Ward winning that gold medal. He had a brilliant performance yesterday in that all-around, so great to see him winning the gold there, and Joshua Nathan and Jake Jarman rounding off the podium. It was a great vault apparatus as well, wasn't it? What a final. Abby coming through with the gold medal, Sydney. An exciting performance.
It was fantastic to see both Abby and Emily really smiling and enjoying their performances there. Neither of them had the competition they would have wanted yesterday, so to actually get out here early on Sunday, the only final that Emily's in, Abby's still got floor to come, and put out a strong performance is fantastic for them.